Welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. It's very good to have you join me today. Today, we're going to talk about establishing guidelines for the management of your home. You know, every place that you work, they have guidelines. In fact, let me tell you, as a nurse in a hospital, they have books and books of guidelines. Everywhere that you go, you have to deal with guidelines. Today, in the day and age of COVID, you have to know places you can go with or without a mask, where you can go whether or not you've been tested. Yeah, we're all used to this. We have guidelines. If your home has no guidelines, you're probably living in a reasonably chaotic home. Just saying. I'm trying to help you gain a handle on principles that will help you to establish an orderly, calm, reasonably predictable environment. And so let's talk about that. A schedule. If you don't have a schedule, God be merciful to you, your life is pretty out of order. Even if it's a loose schedule, if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's possible. We're going to get up somewhere between 7:30 and 8. We're going to have breakfast somewhere between 8 and 8:30. That's okay, I don't really care. But I want a certain schedule to go on in your world because predictability leads to a secure child. A child who has an understanding of what's coming next and he has a reasonable expectation. That child functions better. That child is more emotionally secure. They respond better to stresses. Oh, and so do adults, incidentally. And so having a schedule is a very helpful thing. If possible, develop a schedule where your child gets up at a regular time, your child eats at regular times, your child takes a nap or rests at predictable times, and you have a regular meal time in the evening, an evening routine, and a bedtime routine. And suddenly, life is a lot easier. Just want you to know that. I'm going to discuss with you very little about a bedtime routine. It'll happen another video, but I want you to get started with this early. If you don't institute anything else, please listen to this. For a child to have adequate sleep allows them to be not stressed, not crabby, to have greater mental clarity. So especially if you're dealing with a child in preschool or school, this is a really big deal. More energy, and they sleep better on a consistent basis night after night. So you want your child to take a bath every single night. A calming, warm bath is a big deal. If you have a washer and dryer, I suggest you throw the towel in or have your co-parent throw that towel in. In about 10 minutes, when you take the child out of the bath, you wrap them up in a warm towel. You can snuggle with them for a few minutes and help them to get into their pajamas and choose a couple outfits that they might want to wear the next day. Put those outfits out so in the morning they can choose what they like. I always had 3. And read them a story, sing to them, talk about your day, say their prayers, and put them into bed. I say that because when that same thing happens every single night consistently, it takes away all argumentation, and the kid who doesn't like to go to bed, he knows what's expected. It just takes a lot of the stress and difficulty out of bedtime, okay? And as I already shared with you, the first few minutes in the morning and the last minutes at night, they're the most important. So the last thing you want to be able to say to your child is, I really love you. I hope you have sweet dreams tonight. A bedtime routine may be the most important thing of all because it helps a child to develop a sense of security and predictability, especially if you have a child who's difficult to put to bed. This is a great thing to do because they know what's coming. It also helps them to feel really secure and safe. And the last things that they need to hear you say before you tuck them in is, I love you. I hope you have sweet dreams. Okay, so you need a schedule. Now, I'm going to tell you the guidelines that I had in my home, and you may do whatever you would like to do with them, including go, that's not very realistic, or that's not going to help me. And I respect that. I really do. But I don't know where else to come from except to share with you what I did and what worked for me. And frankly, in the what worked for me will be some of the what didn't really work for me. Okay, So in my house, there were these rules. No yelling. Because the place where I grew up, there was a lot of yelling. And when my kids were extremely little, there was yelling. And I hated it. I just hated it. And I hate to get yelled at or yelled for. So there was no yelling. You know, that required a good bit of discipline because that meant when I need my kids, I can't sit there and go, David, Marcus. No. I had to get up and walk where they were and say, David, I need you. Marcus, I need you. Okay? You can't yell, and nor can they. That was just how it was. The word now is a big deal. In other words, I said to my son, I need you to take out the trash. Yeah, I did not mean next Tuesday, and they knew it. That meant now. If they received instructions, that was to happen. Okay? So you will hear me say more than once, if my lips were moving, my kids were moving. I mean, I wanted instantaneous, cheerful obedience because I'm a Christian. And I'm telling you, for my children, I wanted them to understand that if they heard the voice of God or they hear the voice of someone who is responsible for them, then they need to be moving when they hear that voice. So at my house, now was a big deal. I will grant you, I crocheted when my kids were little, and I painted, and I always have done a lot of things. If my kids said to me, Mama, I really want you to read me a story or whatever, and I would look at them and I would say to them, okay, do you need this or do you want this? And they learned to discriminate. If there was something they really believed they needed, do you know what? I got up and I responded. And if it was something they could wait a minute, I'd say, okay, will you wait until I finish this row, please? And they would. They learned how to wait, but they also understood the importance of the now. So here's my statement to you. If you're in the middle of a video game, or if you're just like, texting away with your friend and your child comes to you and says, Mama, Daddy, I need, if you put them off, put them off, put them off, put them off, first of all, you're telling him that this, whoever this is, or even this thing is so much more important than them. That's a really poor message. Be careful. So when they're 13 or 14, you say, son, they're going to be like, yeah, not now. And you'll never be as important as their whatever. And you did that. You taught them that. You established that. Be careful. So the word now is a big deal. To the best of your ability, now is when you get up, and now is when you meet the need. And it teaches them also to respond like they should, appropriately, to either an instruction or an address. Okay, so get up, respond. Okay, don't ignore them. Then a guideline in our house was to show respect. One of the big ways you show respect is to listen. Okay, don't keep interrupting. Don't override someone in the conversation. Don't have 4 million more important things to do. I mean, listen. As we talked about, your child is like incredible and amazing and important, and you need to demonstrate that. And you do that by listening. And some people, they'll just spill their guts. Some people, if you don't listen to all the, what I call falderall, oh, Billy did this and Janie did this and this happened, and then they get to their heart. If you're not willing to listen, you're going to miss the good stuff. So you have to be willing to listen and listen respectfully. Then a guideline was to be honest. It's all right with me. You can tell me the truth. I even told my kids, if you ever find a day in your life where you think you hate my guts, you can tell me that. Mom, I really hate your guts. But you better say it to me respectfully, okay? Hatred is not a good or a bad emotion. It's an emotion, okay? Sometimes you really do hate somebody, even when you love them most of the time. And oh my word, there's the opposite side of that coin. So every coin has a top and a bottom. Well, if you love me 99% of the time, sometime you're going to hate my guts because that's an equally strong feeling and I can handle that as long as you're still being respectful. So be honest. You show up in front of somebody and you go, hey, baby, how you like my shirt? This is a kicking shirt, right? And your partner says, yeah, I don't want to be seen in public with you in that shirt. It's hideous. Okay. You might have found a better way to say it, but I appreciate it. Like, be honest. So, really, just come out with it. And like I said, own your own stuff. Be honest about how you're really feeling, how you're really doing, what's really going on. Don't blame it on the other guy. Take responsibility, but be honest. Oh, take responsibility concept. Yeah, that's a big one, but we'll talk about that more and more as we go on. You need to be a constant learner. I challenged my kids about that. I took them to museums. We did all kinds of creative stuff. I took them to the park. I took them to gymnastics. I took them to music lessons. I mean, I did more stuff with them. And we read every single day together. I don't mean a bedtime story. I mean, we read Treasure Island, Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, uh, however many thousand leagues under the sea, I always forget that one. Around the World in 80 Days. I mean, we read, okay? And it taught my kids to be a lifelong learner. So have fun learning. Don't make it a pain in the neck. Oh, I want to tell you one of the most fun things I ever taught my kids and the way I taught them. I taught them about math because I was pretty bad at it when I was a kid and nobody encouraged me or helped me much. And so I would do things with my kids in the car. I didn't have all this junk going. It was dead silent in the car. I would say, what's 7 plus 3? And one of them would, go 10. I'd say, okay, what's 17 minus 7? And another one of them would go 10. And we just did math all the time. My kids knew the multiplication tables by the time we were in first grade. I'm going to tell you why. I'd say, you know how you count by fives? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Well, you can count by other numbers like that. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Yeah, you can count by threes. You can count by sevens. And we did it. We did it a lot. And they just knew multiplication. What do you know? It was never a big deal to them. Be a lifetime learner. Oh, and make it fun. So we would sing-song it, and we would do the crazy things, and we would do it on the slide, and we just did it all the time, but we had fun. Oh, speaking of being on the slide, okay, I went to the park with my kids. We would do things like have trains on the slide. There were only the 2 kids and me. We'd find other kids. We'd say, hey, you want to be on our train? And we'd get 7 or 8 of us, and we would all hold on to each other. The person who puts their feet in your lap and wraps them around your waist, and then you put your hands on the other guy's shoulder and you move your elbows, and you're like chugga 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 going down the slide. I mean, have fun, right? And we would swing on the swings, and we would see who could go higher and who could do a flip off. And yes, I did let my kids do flips off swings, and even my 46-year-old can still do a double back flip off of a swing, and he skateboards through downtown Detroit. And I'm just telling you, life is fun. There's enough serious stuff. God only knows there is, okay? So you got to have fun. Have fun where you can. Play games, play board games, do Ring Around the Rosie, go outdoors and find a bunch of kids and play London Bridges. I mean, please have some fun. Play baseball, play football, play volleyball, play basketball. Just have fun, okay? And learn to laugh at yourself, even if you get books of crazy jokes at the library and read them to each other so you can laugh hysterically. I used to take my kids to a place in Wisconsin called Shopko, and we would literally stand in the greeting card department and find funny cards and read them to each other and laugh our guts out. Yeah, have fun. The last guideline that is a big deal to me is spiritual growth. If your mind should be growing and your life should be growing, certainly your spirit should be growing. Okay, so whether that means that you learn generosity by going and serving at a soup kitchen, or giving gifts to children who are needy through a fire department or Operation Christmas Child, I don't care how you do it, but foster your child's spiritual growth. I will discuss this with you further on another video, but I literally developed my children's character by helping them to learn Bible verses and talking to them about the spiritual implications of things like patience, generosity, self-control, self-discipline, respect of other people, for all people are equal, which they truly are. Every single one of us is equal in the sight of God at the foot of the cross. No one is better, no one is worse. Doesn't matter how someone looks or smells or dresses. Every person is worthy of respect. Yes, so many things that I emphasized in my children in terms of character and spiritual growth. So those are some of the guidelines that governed my household. You need to have guidelines that govern yours. Okay? So if it's a big deal to you that your kids are hardworking, which it was to me too, then you work on guidelines that establish that. I wouldn't want you to have 50 guidelines. It doesn't need the book like that we had in the hospital. I think 10 or 15 is more than enough. And the more expectations you have, and it's clear in your own thinking to establish a guideline to your child, why you have that and what you want from them in light of that, and where it's going to take them in terms of the kind of adult they will become, the better it is. Okay? So, my challenge question for you today is, do I have any guidelines? If I do, am I satisfied with them? And if I don't, what do I need to do to establish guidelines? I'm going to encourage you about this one more time. Don't go off half-cocked. Don't write down 15 things and tell your kids and your spouse, this is what we're doing. Leave yourself space on that challenge question. Chew this over for a week or maybe a month. Write down things that matter to you. Cross things off. Add things on. Explain it even to your own self. So that if and when you are prepared to establish guidelines in your home, you're very clear on what you want and why it matters. And if one of you, the mom or the dad, are listening to this and you haven't gotten your co-parent involved, today is the day I'm going to beg you. Get them going. Okay? If one of you is listening on a podcast and you say to the other one, I want you to listen to this on your MP3 player, I want you to go look at this on YouTube or Rumble, that's absolutely okay with me. But get them involved so that they know what you're hearing. And maybe you can even have a 5-minute discussion at night. Wow, can you believe Miss Violet said, or boy, I never thought about that before. It's always good to have a great conversation about these kinds of things with the person that you're parenting alongside of. So today I want you to start having this discussion with them about what it means to establish guidelines in your home. If you're a single parent, it's okay. You can do this, I promise you. So regardless of your parenting situation, consider which guidelines you need to help you to have a safe and secure environment in which to raise your children. It's been great having you with me today.